Hello, BookTube. I'm trying yet another camera angle here to try my best to get the daylight to behave. It's been wonky daylight all day. We have a small bank of thunderstorms moving in overnight, and the clouds are starting to build now, so the light is problematic, as the kids say. But neither the wonky light nor the coming thunderstorms, and hopefully the break in the humidity that they represent, is going to save you, BookTube, from a little Wednesday TBR torture. I have 6 books I want to show you, only one of which I have read, and the first 3 wander all over the map, as is the nature of this channel, and then we go medieval. So I'm going to show you the first 3 first. First one is a debut, translated, I believe. Is this translated literature? I've got the very casual arm up on the couch look here, but it's not because I'm cool at all. It's because I'm trying to figure out the right camera angle to make it so that I don't look like I'm underwater. Yes, this is translated by Carolyn Waight, and it is The Chestnut Man by Soren Sveistrup. The Chestnut Man, the requisite ugly American cover, but a very, very interesting premise. This is a thriller. And the author is apparently a main writer for a popular TV show. I don't know, it's called The Killing, and I don't know anything about it, but this is his debut novel. And in the debut novel, a young child is murdered. The young child of a minister in Denmark is murdered. And the body is never found. The psychopath who is arrested for the crime never actually is able to give any convincing details and cannot lead the police to what he claims is the dismembered body. And the minister, of course, takes time off from work. She's devastated. But when she returns to work, a year later, a series of gruesome killings are happening in the country. And at the scene of every crime, there's a little chestnut figurine. And on one of the pieces of one of those figurines is her child's fingerprint. And that killer premise of a case is taken on by the two main characters in the book, 2 detectives who, one of whom is the stereotypical, exiled, bye-bye book type of maverick cop who has been sent to I think this takes place in Copenhagen. He's been sent to Copenhagen for his crimes and for his sins, and the other is a cop who's trying to change her career path, and they don't get along at all at the beginning of the book. And so this author is giving us both what sounds like a very involved serial killer mystery, and also an odd couple cop drama. And I can't wait. I'm all for that. So that's all the elements that I like. We'll just see if the translation is good or if the prose is terrible and maybe the translation can't do anything with that. That would be just horrible. It's still bothering me. There was a thriller from, I think, last month or the month before that called City of Windows. I think we saw it on this channel about a city in the grip of a massive snowstorm that is being plagued by a master sniper, someone who's getting impossible shots off. And the cops have to deal with the forensics of that while dealing with the complications of a snowstorm. It's a great premise for a book, and the book was just so irretrievably badly written that I couldn't get around it. I don't expect, police procedural literary thrillers to be masterworks of prose, but I couldn't ignore the prose. It wasn't even just, if it had just been sanded of its really bad failings, then I would have been able to ignore it and enjoy the, what happens next nature of the story, but I couldn't do that. So we'll see if that is true for The Chestnut Man. I have high hopes. We shall see. This next one is natural history. This is by Roger Pasquer, and it's called Birds in Winter. Surviving the most challenging season. This is a whole natural history of how birds deal with winter, and it has illustrations instead of, I don't think it has any photos. I think this book is just all illustrations. And I love the subject. Bernheidrich, for instance, the great bird writer, a great natural historian, wrote not only Winterworld, which was a book about how all kinds of animals cope with winter, including some regions of the world that still have really severe winters. I think that I'm in agreement with the the natural historians and the scientists who now, in 2019, say that this generation of people will live in a world with no winter anywhere. I think I'd probably agree with that. I'd be willing to bet that pretty much everywhere in the booktube ambit, the winter that is coming on in the Northern Hemisphere is going to be mild. We'll see. I could be wrong about that. But Bernd Heydrich also wrote Ravens in Winter, one of the greatest works of natural history about birds that's ever been written. And though it was Ravens in Winter that whetted my appetite, that got me interested in the strategies that animals have developed to survive and thrive in winter. The ones that stay awake face an enormous energy outlay, which is why hibernation and suspended animation are so popular for the season of winter as an adaptation strategy. But this is all about that. This is about how birds deal with winter. They would, on one surface, seem, aside from amphibians who do hibernate, birds would seem to be utterly vulnerable. They have an incredibly high metabolism and very little ability to warm themselves. But my sparrows, for instance, right out that window, they live year-round. And they have found all sorts of ways. For instance, they live in the wainscoting of the house. And you don't have to go far away from the outside exposure to the elements to get enough warmth to live on. And they do. And they have all sorts of other strategies too. And I, of course, am part of that strategy. I feed them every single day. And they now know that. They're now on their 4th generation of me feeding them. So it's well known now. So I'm part of their survival strategy. And then this next one, before we get medieval, this next one is something I've heard a lot about. I'm glad to have the book. I'm glad I'll be interested in reading it. It's a fascinating story of our times. It's by Mike Isaac, and it's called Superpumped, The Battle for Uber. And this is the story of Uber, and by extension, ride shares of, crowdsourced ride car services of all kinds. But this is a story of Uber's startup, where the money comes from, various lawsuits, the rise and fall is what the dust jacket refers to. And I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up being true. I don't know what I think about that. This is going to teach me an enormous amount about something that is a part of my life, not Uber. Boston has a thriving market for, Uber and Sidecar and Lyft and whatnot. And I've tried them all, and Lyft is by far my favorite in terms of the courtesy of the drivers. They all work about the same. They all charge about the same. And, you get the app on your phone. You type in the address you're going to and your own address. You send a request for a car, and you get the graphics. You get the graphics of the search going out and all the cars in the local neighborhood getting the notification. And then you get the little graphic of the car coming to your location once a driver is selected. And it's been a revolution for me in the last couple of years. I don't drive. I've never sat behind the wheel of a car in my life. My surly houseboy doesn't drive. We don't have a car. And so there's public transportation, there's buses, and there's the subway, the MBTA. But aside from that, Lyft has been just a revelation. It's allowed me to do all sorts of things that, with total freedom and total economics that otherwise I would have had to rely on taxi cabs to do, traditional taxi cabs, where I've had nothing but negative experiences in 50 years of using them. I've had nothing but negative experiences. Taking a taxi cab, hailing one, or going to a cab stand guarantees you a soiling, horrible, anger-inducing experience, and for top dollar. So when these services came along, I was their foremost fan, and I still am. It would kind of bug me if Lyft disappeared for whatever reason. So this is going to be fascinating to read. And that's the first 3 books on our Wednesday TBR torture. And now the torture gets medieval. We're going to deal with 3 novels set in the Middle Ages. The first one is by S.D. Sykes, and this is called Bonefire. Pretty nice cover. You got the water, but it looks like fire. And it's set in 1341, I think. 1361. It's set in 1361 at the height of the Black Death. So let me tell you a little bit about this. I guess this is not the first book in the series starring these characters, but I'm going to treat it as the first because I don't remember reading any of the others before it. And keep in mind what we always say on this channel: I should be able to do that. It's the author's job to make sure that I'm able to do that. So I'm going to sail in without a thought in the world. And if the author fails at that job, well, then I'll know because I'll encounter a paragraph and I won't have any idea what's going on. But anyway. In the new Summerhill Manor novel, see, Summerhill Manor must be the setting of these books? I don't know. Oswald de Lacy brings his family to a secluded island castle to escape the Black Death, but soon a murder within the household proves that even the strongest fortresses aren't free from terror in 14th century England. When the Black Death reappears in England in 1361, Oswald knows that the safest place for his wife and young son is the island fortress of Eden, where his eccentrically pious friend Godfrey has invited the family to stay and wait out the plague during the long, dark winter. But Oswald has barely had time to settle in when a brutal murder shocks the household, and it soon becomes clear that the castle is not the stronghold of security they're so desperately looking for. And you can't go wrong with a premise like that. They're fleeing the Black Death and they go to a stronghold where murder takes place. I'm on board. Absolutely on board. So that is the first of our medieval novels. And the next one we've seen on this channel before. I have the finished copy here, and it is the one that I have read, and I'm going to reread it. I read it a while ago. I'm going to reread it. I mean, first impression is going to be dodgy, especially when it comes to fiction, but I think it's really, really good. I really enjoyed it the first time. And there were no background bells going off of things that were wrong that I was ignoring. So I'm thinking a reread is just going to be a thoroughly better experience. This is Philippa Gregory, the author of The Other Boleyn Girl, and this is Tidelands, which is her own. It's not technically medieval. It is ye olden times. I think this is 1648, so it's 300 years later. But Midsummer Eve, 1648, and England is in the grip of a civil war between renegade king and rebellious parliament. The king was not a renegade. Okay? Anyway, don't get me started. The struggle reaches every corner of the kingdom, even the remote Tidelands, the marshy landscape of the south coast. Eleanor, a descendant of wise women, trapped by poverty and superstition, waits in the graveyard under the full moon for a ghost who will declare her free from her abusive husband. Instead, she meets James, a young man on the run, and shows him the secret ways across the treacherous marsh, not knowing she is leading disaster into the heart of her life. Suspected of possessing dark secrets in the superstitious times, Eleanor's ambition and determination mark her out from her neighbors. This is a time of witch mania, and Eleanor, a woman now without a husband, skilled with herbs, suddenly enriched, rouses envy in her rivals and fear among the villagers who are ready to take lethal action into their own hands. And this is of course, it's a really good portrait of Eleanor herself. But I really also like the atmospherics, which I found them to be a little bit skimpy in some Philippa Gregory novels, where she's clearly a character writer and not really a panorama writer, and I'm perfectly willing to let her play to those strengths, but sometimes it's at the expense of the greater feeling of a historical novel. You want a historical novel to sink you in the time as well as the characters. And sometimes her books don't do that. This book has only the one main character, so it'd be a horrible shame if it didn't do that, and it does. It does do. You get the character. Totally. But there's also a tremendous amount of good work done on the time. The nervousness running through the air, the mania, and also the world of the Tidelands. I don't think it's an accident that when all was said and done and Philippa Gregory sat back and looked at this book, she called it this. There's a sense of place here that's almost Hardy-esque. And that's a pretty strong thing to happen. I really liked my first read of this, and I'm going to read the hardcover and see if that holds true. And then the last of our TBR torture for this Wednesday, this pre-storm Wednesday, is also medieval. and it's by Nathan Makaryk, and it is Nottingham. No king, no rules. Nottingham. And this is, of course, as you can tell from that title, a Robin Hood takeoff. And I'm always up for those. I wanted to use this as an example to once again recommend Richard Kluger's book, The Sheriff of Nottingham. I don't think it's in print anymore. It probably won't be in print again, but oh my God, you should find yourself a copy. If you like historical fiction and you haven't read Richard Kluger's book, The Sheriff of Nottingham, you are missing out on an amazing, amazing reading experience. Even if medieval England is not your typical favorite time span, it isn't, for instance, mine, find a copy of The Sheriff of Nottingham and give it a try. You're going to be blown away. But let's see about this one. This is the exact same thing. This is also a modern fictional retelling of the whole folklore of Robin Hood. So this is England in 1191. So we're all over the map here in terms of time. We're centuries apart, covering 6 centuries of English history. King Richard is half a world away, fighting for God and his own ambition. Back home, the country languishes, bankrupt on the verge of anarchy. People with power are running unchecked. People without are growing angry. And in Nottingham, the largest and wealthiest shire in England, a dangerously passive sheriff seems intent on doing nothing. As the leaves turn gold in the Sherwood forest, the lives of 6 people, Arable, a servant girl with a secret, Robin and William, soldiers running from their past, Marion, a noblewoman working for change, Guy of Gisborne, the beleaguered guard captain, and Eleanor Gamwell, a brash, ambitious thief, all become entwined. And a strange story begins to spread. So I'm absolutely on board for this. Who is this guy? Nathan Makaryk is a theater owner, a playwright, a director, and an actor living in Southern California. And Nottingham, based on his play The Legend of Robin Hood, is his first novel. Oh, look at that. Look at that. This is his debut. I didn't realize that. He likes dogs and scotch, because of course he does. That's what the bio note says. He likes dogs and scotch, because of course he does. All right, very good. Very good. All right, so we have a trilogy of medieval fiction for you. We have Nottingham. We have Tidelands by Philippa Gregory. She's the only household name here. We have Bone Fire. So those are the 3 medieval books. Trying to work out the ergonomics of this. So I'm siphoning off the last of the daylight. It's like Riddick here. It's like pitch black. Then Superpumped, which is a book about Uber, the rise, the mechanics, the financing, and the fall of Uber. Birds in Winter, an illustrated natural history book about how birds cope with the severe season of winter. And The Chestnut Man. We'll end as we began with a thriller police procedural. With a serial killer and cops at each other's throats and enigmatic warnings. Absolutely fine by me. I hope I like it. And there you go. That's a little Friday or Wednesday TBR torture for you. And once again, the other day I asked, do you want me to list the books that I talk about in every video in the information part of the video? And I got let's just say a very large number of emails saying, yes, we want that. We have always wanted that. We've reminded of you about 100 times. So I will try to do that for this video. I will try to remember to write these down in the information section of the video so that you can look at them as well as hear about them. Sorry about that. So I'm going to wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.